Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Local Grit. And I'm here with Bernadette Connors, who's a Hamilton musician who has a voice of an angel. I love listening to her sing. And she is, a lot of people don't think that music is a business, but I totally disagree. It is a very much a business. And making a career out of it is very challenging. And so I wanted to discuss the business side as well as get into some other things that musicians do. So welcome to the show, Bernadette.
Alex, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So now, the funny thing is that your album was, Monarch was produced by John Angus, whose son takes lessons at Set Footprints Music. It's like a small
I
world,
love
how
that.
we're all connected.
I know. I
But
love it.
I know that you started in Georgina, Ontario. You grew up with your family's music school. So tell us, what was the moment you decided that, yeah, music was for me? I need to make this a career.
Mm. Oh, I think there were constant moments where I like continued to decide that it was my career. You know what
Mm,
I mean? Like
yep.
even now, it's almost like reigniting the commitment to the journey, of course. Um, I would say I was going into high school and I remember grade 9, Fast and the Furious had just come out. And I loved the idea of being that, like, mechanic chick who knew how to, like, work on cars.
Yeah.
So, in grade 9, I took an intro course, integrated technologies, thinking, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna, like, explore this." And, I realized that's not really my skill set.
Me either. You're not alone.
Yeah, yeah, and no one in my family works on cars,
Yeah.
okay? Like, let's make this clear. So, I think I learned in grade 9 that it wasn't my skill set. And by the time I was in grade 10, my brothers were bringing me to jam nights to sing on Tuesday nights. And that's where I knew this was my talent and where my skills landed and what I was passionate about, which is why I had skill in this area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I got really aware of who I am creatively and musically through that journey. And that's where the commitment really started.
Nice. And so would you say, when did you start singing? When was that the first?
Mm. Yeah, no,
But
I started singing in the choir that my dad ran.
nice. Yeah.
So I was 2 years old, my mom would put me on the pew and I would read her lips and
Oh,
she'd sing the harmonies and I'd be singing the melody with the rest of the choir.
that's amazing. So would you say that being part of the family business helped in any way in terms of business decisions that you've made?
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to interrupt,
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
like, huge, between knowing the risk my mom and dad took in 1978 to move to a different town and establish a music school, knowing that experience they've had and how they built it from the ground up, and being immersed in an environment. The music store was downstairs from where we lived, so we lived above it. I would go downstairs and see all kinds of aspects of business sense and pick things up. And I can tell you the first person I sold a banjo to, as a salesperson. And
Right.
I was like 14 and he was a really good spirit about it, like letting the owner's daughter show him the stuff and then he bought a banjo. So I mean, I would say knowing how to have great relationships with people, see a need and help them with that. I definitely learned that through my family's business.
Nice.
Along with grit. Along with grit.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Um, you always have to have grit, especially in music. But the real question I want to know is, did you get a good commission on that banjo?
Well, I still had a roof over my head, so I think that's good.
Fair enough. So I know that, as I said earlier, a lot of people don't look at music as a business, but you really do have, there's a lot of hardships, there's a lot of challenges. Relationships, as you know, as mentioned, is important. How did you decide to charge for a gig? And I just want to preface it with a story because I remember teaching an amazing musician in Toronto at our Toronto location. And she was like, I got a gig. And I was like so excited for her. She was 16, 17. And I was like, how much does it pay? And she said, it pays $50 for the whole night. And I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. And she's like, and it's 3 sets. And we start at 7 and we end at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't want to take the wind out of her sails. But at the same time, I was like, let's say you have a gig every night. How much money are you making? And she did the math and it was like, that's not even enough for rent. So how do you set your prices? How do you determine what the value is over the years? And how do you negotiate that? And are you the negotiator or do you hire someone to do that?
Yeah. Oof. This is a loaded question, Alex. So
Oh,
keep me on track,
I
okay?
will.
Because your story, your anecdote reminded me a lot of my first solo paid gig that I took, where they paid me $20 an hour,
Yeah.
and and it was 3 45-minute sets.
Yeah.
So I'm getting paid what, like $60 or 20, 40, 60.
Yeah.
I, you know, so I mean, but I look at that first gig and I go, did I deserve more back then?
Mm,
I
yeah.
would say maybe not.
Yeah.
Humble, like, did I deserve more at the age of 18 when I did that gig? I don't know. But what I will say is I think that it's a scale, and I think your experience in performing is part of that. I think there is an element of paying your dues, not just throughout your experience, but in the communities you're in. When I first moved to Hamilton, I didn't get paid work. I was playing at the Casbah open mic and getting heckled.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's not talk about that too much. But
Yeah.
there is a bit of paying your dues, and then there's learning. You have value that escalates, and
Yeah.
that value is partly you have to impose that value, and partly your demand has to impose that value.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So yeah, I would say you don't want to price yourself out of work, but you also want to make sure that you can build a sustainable life, and that takes time
I mean, that's
and many
exactly like,
revenue streams.
yeah, that's like any other business, right? You can't go in there and just decide to charge $1 million for your service if you don't have $1 million value. And a moment of silence for the Casbah as it is now gone, which is very
Yes.
sad. That was
Although I see
great.
Brody doing so many great
I know
things.
it's true, and there's a
So
comedy store
I'm
that's
excited
opening
for
up.
the
I think
future.
they're involved with that, which I'm very excited about. But that was such a great venue.
I know.
We did love it. So yeah, no, but there are a lot of skills that you do need to go through to paying your dues. What's one paying dues that you, or what was the first gig where you were like, wow, this, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this?
It was probably when I started. So I started going to jams when I was 15, as I said, and my brothers would drive us to the next town over that had the jam night on Tuesday nights. So
Nice.
at 15, I was going to that jam night till midnight, 1 a.m., getting home and tired for school in the morning.
Yeah.
By the time I was 18, I got hired to run that open mic, and I ran that open mic until I was 25.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, and it wasn't an incredible paying gig when I look back on it, but I learned so much. I tested so much original material doing that. I was paid every week to be there running it, which gave me a great opportunity to build so many great relationships. Um, and that gig, that bar, that club started hiring my band. That was where the gravy happened. I got so excited that Orleans was paying my band to play. And at the time
Yeah.
we were getting 400, 450 for a four-piece,
Yeah.
which is what my parents used to make in the 70s,
Right. Right.
right? When they played bars and clubs. So I knew that also that couldn't be the end goal, because that my parents had those conversations with me and
Yeah.
my brothers.
Yeah.
So we knew at a young age that, like, the bars weren't going to continue to inflate their revenue. And as we know, especially with the decrease of alcohol sales and other factors, that is not necessarily the end goal to get your best paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, there is a disconnect. I do know that there is a disconnect between the expectation of the bar owner and the musician. And I can kind of see both sides and I can kind of not see both sides. I get it. They're like, well, if you're not bringing in people, how can I pay you? And I know many musicians who were paid in beer alone. And when you're 20, yeah, when you're
Like,
20, you're like, oh my God, I just got paid in beer. That's awesome. But when you're trying to make this as a serious thing, there is a disconnect between the bar owners and what they can do for revenue and a musician. And I know many, many bar owners, and I saw many of my friends who would be just play on spec, meaning just play for the experience. And interestingly enough, what I notice now in the business world is graphic designers are getting that same kind of language. They're getting that
mm.
kind of like, oh, I'll give you lots of social media coverage and I'll like all your posts, but just do this for me. Have you noticed that is one conversation that's tough? And do you have those bar owners who are like, yes, they get it?
Well, I'm going to say this with a lot of respect and gratitude for all the experience I've gained in bars. I don't really pursue that work. I'm not saying I don't play in clubs, and I have a multiple different facets I've got my fingers in, but it was about a year and a half ago I was really trying to get bar gigs, and it was feeling really arduous. And again, to be humble about it, I was like, I know that this scene out here doesn't know me the way my hometown does, but it
Right.
shouldn't be this hard to get a freaking $200 gig. Like,
Yeah.
that was where my brain was
Right.
sitting. So I started kind of allowing the offers to come in, and that changes my position.
Yeah.
So when a bar or club or anyone reaches out, typically they're reaching out for something special, right? And I've gotten involved in Hamilton in other ways,
Yes.
right? And in other forms of collaboration, and had great experiences playing at local coffee shops and different things that said, "Yeah, Bernadette, we want to give you 150, $200 to play solo. Let's do it."
Yeah.
I think that if you're in the same position I am, which means you've been pursuing this and performing for a very long time,
Yeah.
out of the gate in high school, I recorded my first album, lived in my van for 2 months, bussed across Canada. Like, I am definitely committed to this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you are in the same position I am in, and you continue to pay your dues in the community you're in, you continue to give back, you continue to be involved, I would say allow the offers to come in. And then, if it's not always monetary, right? Sometimes it's a great, I don't want to say exposure, but it's a great opportunity to collaborate. We want to allow for that too.
Oh,
I don't
for
want to only be about the paycheck at the
great
end of
point.
the day, because
Yeah.
right. But I would say, yeah, I would say I got a lot of experience in the bars, and there's a pay scale from 100 to $200 per musician that you can try to squeeze out of those venues. And
Yeah.
and I would say do it. Try to squeeze it. And if they're willing to pay 350 for an acoustic act, be grateful
Yeah.
and work hard for it.
Mm.
And then on top of that, continue to cultivate great relationships.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I find that a lot of musicians overlook is how you conduct yourself as a musician when you go there. Meaning, show up on time. Don't be mouthy with the staff, right? Don't feel you have entitlement. Like a lot of these small little nuanced things that make it enjoyable to work with you, that is a skill for every industry, but is one that I find from the musician side. Having been to many gigs and seen many people perform, there are musicians out there who just don't have the respect for, and those little things are gold. Those are easy wins
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because it can be taught. I'll say that,
Yeah.
right? However, uh, I think it has something to do with inflation of not just, I don't want to say an inflated ego,
Right.
but I think that there's like, musicians are going out there. We're going out there with our elbows up,
Yes. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because we don't feel valued, right? So you're going to walk into the venue and you're going to say, "Yeah, I'll take as much as my bar tab will allow." And 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 I deserve it. And
Right.
you're like, "Look, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And you should tip the staff.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
And you should tip the staff."
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
one of the classiest things I watched, I was out at a band dinner
Mm,
for the J.R. Diggs show, right?
mhm.
So a bunch of the bands do the band dinner before the show, and I was out with the Wild High guys. And I watched the bass player Ryan pull out a 20 out of his wallet and throw it on the table as the band was leaving.
Right.
Classy.
Right.
And I think that behavior has to happen. You have to do that without looking at whether or not it's what you're supposed to be doing. Where's your integrity? Where are your values? How do you want to treat people? Do
Yeah.
that everywhere.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I do get it is a bit of a paradox because the very ego that you need to get on stage can also be the ego that's inhibiting you from being the taking those quality moments and going into your wallet for $20. So I know that there's a lot of learning experiences with that. Uh, you've mentioned a couple of revenue streams that you start up. I know that you teach voice lessons, which is great. But what are some streams that you've started to make this just as profitable and to pay your to make a living?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so definitely mentorship, and imparting that, creating experiences that aren't just about my music, but about what you want out of music, right? And I think there's a lot of different ways, as you know, Alex, through your business and how you nurture music in the community, like with your like remember that you had everyone out there in a
That's
drum
right.
circle. Everyone can
Yeah.
participate. It's fun. It's dynamic. I think that those kind of experiences like you do, I think more musicians should consider that, not out of need, but out of vocation.
Yes.
If you feel called to do something like that. I think it's also really important when we talk about music education that you don't just go into it because you need money.
Right.
And I think that's really important to say because if someone just goes into music education for money because the bars aren't paying enough,
Yeah.
and your ego isn't getting served in the bar, what are you doing in that lesson room?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Right. So I think that's really, really important to keep in mind. When I talk about other revenue streams, um, creating a group choir is a great way to do it. Pay what you can, even. Again, great opportunity to build relationships in your community, have an impact locally.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. And then when it comes to other revenue streams, I mean, of course, writing original music and putting it out there in the world, for me, the expenses have really gone up on that. So
Yeah.
I'm looking to kind of rework my business model around that as we speak. I don't
Mm,
have answers.
yeah.
Um,
What are,
Humbly, I
what are some
don't.
expenses? What are some expenses that have gone up?
Hired musicians, right? Because I do a lot of hired gun work, and I would say they if you're a hired gun, you're exceptional at what you do, you're proficient, you're talented, and you execute the artist's vision accurately and clearly. All I would say 99.9% of the hired guns I've worked with have done a fantastic job, and
Yeah.
it's been the right move for me.
Yeah.
However, that's a production expense. So if Bernadette Connors, the artist, wants to go out in Hamilton and I'm paying my hired guns $200 each, I have to fork out what's 200 times five, two, four,
Yeah.
six, eight, $1,000
Yeah.
before I even make a cent. So I think, and that goes for if my band's full of hired guns or if I'm, trying to perform in a Grant Avenue session, for example, or any other situation where I'm bringing musicians in as hired, not collaborators, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, a bit of a shift that I'm making is saying, okay, I might compromise creative control in some ways. I might have to compromise or be more open to everyone's ideas. However, I'm walking more in a collaborative sense with people now because I've used these hired guns to get me to a place where now I can say, okay, who wants to collaborate? Like, let's
Yeah.
do this, right? And I also do studio work. So people will hire me to go add backup vocals, or demo a lead vocal on an original song, if they're a songwriter who wants a demo done. Those are also ways people can make money, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, I'm getting a little off topic, I think, or I'm
No,
on topic, but it's
you're
everywhere.
right.
But
You're
that's
right
the
on top.
nature of being a musician.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny that you say this because I remember I was advising this woman. She had a great business model for plus size models, and she had all of her business stuff and everything. And I said to her, you know, you're not in the fashion industry, you're in the relationship industry. And she looked at me as if I was crazy, but really, everything to do with art is about relationships. And you have just, you know, you just said that all of those things, which is, you know, the relationships that you made. It's a lot of fingers and a lot of pies is what is going to help you kind of persevere with all of that stuff. So no, you were, I
Yeah.
think that was totally on topic. Now
Okay,
you
good.
touched on hiring musicians, and I'm going to talk
Mm.
about this because it's touched every single industry no matter what, and that is AI. And I'll
Mm.
tell you a little story. In 2003, I remember the first time I heard a computer generated guitar solo rhythm track and lead, and I could not tell the difference. And as someone who had spent at that time in 2003, I had spent 12 years playing guitar to be something that I have immersed in. And then to have someone just program it. And I, as a professional, because you, as you know, when you become a professional, your ears change into how you hear music. And I struggled to see how that was. It becomes you know, you feel threatened. There is a bit of a threat. And now with AI music and people are like, it's irrelevant whether people think it's garbage music or not. It's whether it sells. And
Mm.
have you
Yep.
thought about using AI? Do you have a firm stand against AI? And what are some thoughts? Let's talk about this.
Mm.
Get it all out in
Okay,
the
we're going deep, Alex. We're getting deep.
deep.
You've got a lot of viewership on here, so I got to be careful. No. You know what I think is most important, and I feel this myself, and maybe you agree. Yes, sure, um, there are music jobs in this industry that are threatened because things can be replicated with AI. Sure,
Mhm.
right? However, I believe that AI is going to be the differentiator between manufactured fake and what's not really real,
Yep.
and people leaning towards and understanding more of the real experience with music. Because let's be honest, in a very polite way, there's a lot of production that goes into major shows already that isn't
True.
uh, the type of musical craftsmanship that has risk
Yes.
because it's perfect.
Yep. I
Right. And that's the idea with AI and the idea with manufactured things is there's no risk. And your audience knows that. They're smart. They can feel that this is safe. Now, is it going to be enjoyable to have on your spin class playlist some sort of Beyonce meets
yeah.
Black Velvet, which I think I heard the other day and I couldn't find it anywhere. But anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I I'm sure that might happen, but my music isn't happening on a playlist anyway. Honestly, Alex, my success isn't on Spotify. My success is when I'm in a room with people and they feel something because I just played a song about my divorce.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I have a very strong belief that more importantly, more now than ever, we got to come together locally and create.
Yes, I agree. I think also what's important, you know, I'm just playing devil's advocate with things, but I think what's important to remember is that music live, you can't duplicate AI music live and get the same visceral reaction, in my opinion, because I don't like going to live music and hearing a backing track as much as I did. And the irony is that it is the imperfections of humans, the way that they don't have perfect time, they don't have perfect meter or dynamics that makes it so beautiful. That's what makes live music so beautiful. And you even mentioned like the money is not in the Spotify, which is a whole other drives me mental that people are
Yeah.
making on that stuff. But you know that That's where I'm going with that. I think you know that live music is where it's going to perform, and can AI do that? And if so, it's going
Hmm.
to be a different performance, and you'd be going for a different reason than going to see yourself singing.
Yeah. You're gonna go for not a human experience, and that's fine. It's entertainment. We have entertainment.
Hmm.
Music, music performances, the human experience competes with entertainment all the time. It's just the entertainment's gonna look different. And the need to embrace imperfection and our humanness is going to increase, in my opinion.
I mean, that's one of the things I just posted the other day was just allow yourself to suck. Like you do have
Oh yeah, give yourself permission to suck.
exactly, you have to suck before you can get good at things, and it's one thing that is so it's it it's just a mindset that there's nothing that
Hmm.
will make you want to believe that. You just have to be like, okay, I suck at this, but continually playing little bits every day is going to help for sure. Yeah.
Well, as a music educator too, you understand, and I see this in my lesson room where people are looking for shortcuts sometimes, and I want to create the shortcut that gives you the dopamine hit or whatever, so you know you're capable,
Right.
right? Do I want to bring in uh AI in that environment? I'm a little too maybe
Yeah.
old school on that.
Yeah, I hear you.
You
Yeah.
know, as an old soul, like,
Yeah.
sure, the music store my family opened was 1978, but I think my soul is from the 60s anyway, you know?
Right.
Um, and I think and I explained this to a young kid yesterday, and I'm sure you will appreciate this. The resiliency, the ability to struggle and not know if you can get through it in your music, and then get to the other side and then repeat that a couple times. That that's building character. That's building something that that kid is going to take into whatever career, whether it's music or
Yes.
not.
Oh, totally 100% agreement. It builds confidence in ways that people don't really understand. And that's why when parents will say, "Ah, my child's not practicing," and I'm like, "Do they love going to the lesson?" And they're like, "Yeah, they love going to the
Yeah.
keep going." Unless you're unless your child is fighting you to go, and that is what's happening, they are getting benefits. And now, as you know, I
Mm.
mean, we've gone to university and they're like so thankful that they just stuck with it. It helps people. It helped me through my whole 20s. If I didn't have music, no hyperbole, I'd be dead because it was something that just kept me going and is something is super important. Yeah, we don't have any inclinations to bring AI into our education. Um, I just like to use AI to help streamline human processes that are really redundant and boring, and that's it. And
Yeah.
and
Yep. Agreed.
that can't be replaced. The music can't be replaced by AI. I would rather just go and play my guitar than listen to an
Agreed.
AI
Agreed.
guitar player play everything perfectly. I mean, there are 8-year-olds on Instagram who can play guitar better than me already.
Well, that's the other thing. When you bring that up, it's interesting. I remember growing up seeing child prodigies and thinking, "Oh, I could never amount to that," right? And like, so listening to AI and saying I could never amount to that, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, totally. That's so true. It's interesting you bring up prodigies because I've talked and I have investigated this a lot. And I remember I worked at a music school in Toronto called Walter's Music, which is no longer there. And there was a
Mhm,
guy
mhm,
there
mhm.
who was probably the best piano player I've ever heard in my life. He could play 5/8 with one hand and 3/4 with the other, like stuff that is just mind blowing. And we used to talk about music competitions, and he would say, I said, "How do they know who's better than the other person?" And he would say, "I would know before I even walked into the place. I would look at the judges and I know I'm not going to win this competition because I have a Brahms piece and I know that these particular judges hate Brahms." And and it's interesting. So that really got me curious about prodigies. And there was Marty Friedman, who's the guitar player for Megadeth. He moved to Japan because in Japan they love all very virtuosic technical guitar playing. So he moved there and learned Japanese, and he had a student who was a prodigy. She was unbelievable, but she couldn't jam. And this is the cost of prodigies, is that they can repeat a lot. They really struggle with creating interesting, nuanced music on their own. And his whole thing, and there are lots of videos about this, that even prodigies will hit a wall because they can only perform what is in front of them. So I find that really, really interesting, when, because it is what,
Well, maybe I'm a jam prodigy.
I know.
Prodigy. And here's what I'm getting at. I love this conversation, Alex. Thank you so much. I was talking to people the other day, and I think you'll appreciate this. I think I'm boiling it down to something very simple, but I think there are two types of musicians.
Yeah.
I think there are people who lean more cerebral and intellectual with their music approach. And there are people who lean more intuitive and creative with their musical approach, right? And then the combination of it is what makes it easy to integrate with each other. Right. Being able to speak the language together with, you on drums and me on guitar singing, and me going, hey, we can feel this together, but calling out what key I'm in and calling out, what time signature I'm in, knowing how to communicate with your friends, with the people you want to collaborate with. That's the important part of having musical literacy and intellectualizing it. So the people who love, I don't see it as a pitfall. It's just you love that, go for it. I had a musician I had hired once tell me he was very excited to meet up with a friend, both bass players, to sit and sight read together and compare sight reading speeds. And I'm going to be honest, Alex, I laughed. So hard. Because I was like, what do you mean? Is this even fun? And he was genuinely offended. He was genuinely offended, and I felt bad for my reaction. And that taught me something about the different, we're different. Music doesn't mean we're all like-minded. Music means we have so many different ways to get to know each other still.
It's true. You do. And I learned, it's interesting because I learned a lot. I don't want to say more, because it is, I used to say I learned more playing with musicians than I did going to school, but it's not more, it's different. It's more. I mean, my immediate thing was just, you started that story with two bass players, and I was like, you just need to stop right there. Joke to the bass.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
joke to the bass players. But there are people who need that. They need that, the notes in front of them. And yeah, it is totally okay to want to do that. But I do believe that you should, and this is just my opinion, and nobody has to do it, but you need to go and play with other people and get off page. And I've always taught that, get off the page of music and just
know that both of those, sorry to interrupt, but know that both those musicians that I'm talking about can go off book and do jam very proficiently.
Nice.
In fact, sound like almost Jaco Pastorius level bass playing. It's incredible. Amazing. Some of my favorite musical vocabulary from this.
I don't think he read. I don't think he.
Oh, interesting.
So that's very interesting. I got to double check.
See?
I'm going to double check on that.
Yeah.
But he's phenomenal bass player. Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm all like.
But yeah, I think we're in the zone, Alex.
I know, totally in the zone. All right. Listen, what do you have coming up? What are you working on that's important right now that you wanted to share? Because it's a great thing that you're doing.
Oh, Alex, thank you. I've got a community that I'm building called 28 Music, and it is about creating more sustainability. We're trying to create a community outside of the industry that allows us to create and flourish. And yes, I want people with the same values in the sense of, the human musical experience. And then and then bringing in other factors. So, for example, for Dry January this year, I'm hosting my first Crossroads Writers Round at the Sober Market in Burlington. And I
Right.
think more now than ever, musicians are exploring sober curiosity or just trying to mix it up or cutting it out completely. And I want to create a space where we can feel comfortable to do so and explore alcohol alternatives
Mm.
in the meantime. So that event is Wednesday, January 28th at the Sober Market in Burlington, and it's the Crossroads Writers Round. I'll be performing along with Danny Smart and John Harvey.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. It's amazing
Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
musicians though do. They're like, I'm ready to perform once I have a drink. And I've seen it
Mm.
like come and ruin people's lives. And I remember, I mean, it's just a coincidence, but I was talking to a bass player friend and he used to play high all the time. And I was like, well, what do the other musicians think about that? And they're like, well, I make a lot of mistakes. I was just like, why don't you try not doing it high? But then we lost contact with each other. But it is a very important issue with abuse of alcohol, as everyone knows from famous musicians, but it can take a toll with the not so famous musicians.
Well, going back to the earlier point in our conversation, if you started in bars at $100 and
Yeah.
3 drinks as your pay, and you went up to $200 and an unlimited bar tab, and that's how that's your business model. That's what you're saying is like improvement in your business. Well, now part of your value is in alcohol. And listen, I know guys who smoke and sound great still, and I know guys who somehow drinking makes it their superpower. And I understand everyone is on their own journey. For myself, I in my 20s in Georgina, like what I will say is there were mornings I'd be like, "Hey, can you take that video down?"
Yeah.
Um because I had, too
Yeah.
much. And I thought I was a rock star. My ego was all over the bar floor. And so was I.
Yeah.
Like, singing a whole lot of love on my back, thinking
Yeah.
it's rock and roll,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, which was fine. It was fine. And it was a little rock and roll. But in the same breath, like you mature, you grow. And I think if your whole business model relies on revenue from the bar scene and you don't have another option and you haven't been shown another option, you
Mhm.
don't even see that there's another option. Well, good luck trying to reduce your alcohol intake. I don't blame you for struggling with that. Not to mention the nervous system dysregulation performers deal with. Not to mention the amount of pressure, and we are feeding into a broken system. And I think
Yeah.
inherently in our hearts, when we feel that we're feeding into a broken system, no matter how valued we are, there's going to be a desire to cope
Mhm.
however you're going to do it. And it's not just about needing the confidence to step on stage, it's needing it to recalibrate after you just gave your all to an entire room of people who didn't give it back to you.
Right. Yes. And there is a romanticism of it. There is this kind
Mhm.
of like paying, as you said, paying your dues in your bar. People can take that to mean how much am I going to drink tonight, and what is part of it. It's all part of the lifestyle, and so this event and your organization is about, hey, there are other alternatives.
Yeah, and we're going to create all kinds of alternatives. Like
Yeah.
this is just one
Yeah.
step in what I hope to be a whole world where people can go, Bernadette, I have an idea. Let's collaborate. Alex, I hope you call me up for this. I mean it.
I will collaborate with you. Definitely. I'm definitely
Yeah.
up for it.
Yeah.
What's the date again and where is it? It's in Burlington.
Wednesday, January 28th.
Wednesday, January.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Bernadette, it's
Yeah.
been so great chatting with you. We're going to have to do a second episode because this was so much fun. And
Gosh, Alex, thank you.
yeah, my pleasure. BernadetteConnors.com. And can they get to the other events? Is there a web address for it, or can they just get to it from your website?
I mean, hit my socials. I'll update my website hopefully sooner once
Perfect.
this episode's out.
If you need help, let me know. I will be glad to help you. So,
Well, thank you, Alex.
pleasure. All right. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, you as well. All the